Hey everybody, welcome to the Off the Mic Wrestling Show here on YouTube. I'm Mike Mayer, a Monday Night Raw recap and reaction show for you here on the channel. From Denver, Colorado, post Bash in Berlin, post NXT No Mercy, which was in the exact same building the night before. This was a really solid Monday Night Raw, good follow-up. Advanced a lot of storylines coming out of Bash in Berlin, advancing towards Bad Blood, obviously the next premium live event in Atlanta at the start of October. Really, the first big storyline isn't something that was on the screen, really. It was Joe Tessitore. And a lot of people were wondering how this was going to work out. I can tell you, I didn't have my doubts because I knew Joe from the sports industry, from football and basketball, and calling boxing. He's also done Holy Moly. So he's been all over the place. He's a seasoned broadcaster. So when this hire was announced, I was really, really excited for it because I also knew he's a wrestling fan. And I've talked to people in the industry. I've seen him in the front row at wrestling shows. So I had no doubts that this was going to work. But first nights are not always clean. But for a first night, Joe Tessitore hit a frickin' home run. There was a couple things that were clunky, like he didn't know Ilya Dragunov's finish, but hey, Ilya Dragunov hasn't been on television a lot recently. He's been selling injuries, but him and Wade Barrett bounced off stuff really well. I am super, super excited for what's to come with this guy because he has been doing this for a long time. WWE has had a really hard time trying to have that second chair behind Michael Cole because Michael Cole is as good as there's ever been in this business. There's also been Jim Ross, but Michael Cole, at least in the last decade or so, has been the cream of the crop in WWE. And sometimes he's had to do 2 shows and carry a lot of the load. And WWE for the longest time has had a really hard time trying to find that second commentary chair. They tried it with Adnan Virk. I love Adnan. He's not a play-by-play announcer. They tried it with Jimmy Smith. Jimmy Smith was great, but he's not really in the wrestling sphere. He's done a lot of play-by-play in terms of MMA, but he was really kind of being carried by his commentary partners, Byron Saxton and Corey Graves. You had Kevin Patrick. God bless him. Kevin Patrick was also out of place. Corey Graves, I think, actually did a really good job in the last handful of months doing a role that he wasn't accustomed to. But bringing in somebody like a Joe Tessitore who's been doing this for a long time, done a variety of different events, a variety of different sports, and above all else, one of the most important things, this guy is a wrestling fan. He understands the business. He understands how things are going. He follows the product. Again, like I said, it's his first night. He's going to miss a move here or there. And I'll talk about one of the big angles in this story. His commentary on it was fucking outstanding for a guy who's literally just walking in and doing his first wrestling show as a play-by-play guy. Obviously, he's had a lot of experience in other fields, but also he's probably watched from afar. But to do that on your first night and execute it that way, we'll talk about it. CM Punk and Drew McIntyre, great angle on the show. But again, Joe Tessitore is really one of the big MVPs of tonight's show because there were some questions, and justifiably so. It's a new announcer, and WWE has, struck out a couple of times with these new announcers that they brought in. So we start the show with Joe and Wade Barrett in the ring. Joe plays to the crowd, talking about the Denver Broncos, and gets a great live reaction. So he gets the intro, a nice pop for him. Like I said, really happy for Tess. I know people in the industry who know him very well and have worked with him and only say exemplary things about him as a broadcaster and as a person. So thank you, Joe Tessitore. Great first night. Here's to many more great weeks to come. And I hope it's with Wade Barrett because they were really good tonight. So then we hype up Bash in Berlin, the video package, which was really good, putting together all the pieces and reminding you of all the things that happened over the weekend. We get the walk-up shots, Joe Tessitore narrating all the people walking in. And we start the show with, in my opinion, who has been the star of Monday Night Raw for, I'd say, at least the last year and a half, Rhea Ripley. And so she welcomes us to Monday Night Mami. I always love that. They got to put that on a t-shirt eventually in Monday Night Raw colors. That's a lot of money to be made there. She said she's not finished destroying the Judgment Day. Rhea recalls pinning Liv Morgan at the Premium Live event in Berlin, and she asked for a title shot. She said, "Hey, I'm not done with you." She gets interrupted by Dom. Walks out on the stage. He gets booed loudly. Morgan and Rhea told Dom to go backstage, get his girlfriend, or she would give him another black eye. By the way, Dom's eye was fucked up. Like, holy shit, it was bloodshot. I don't know what happened at the pay-per-view, but holy shit, his eye was messed up. So Dom walked to the ring, stood on the apron, saying that while Liv was still recovering from what Rhea did to her at Bash in Berlin, there's a "You Suck" chant. Dom accused Rhea and Damian Priest of taking advantage of him and Liv. Dom then claimed they were tired from jet lag and for other reasons. Ooh, a sexual innuendo there. Oh, Dom. Oh, my God. He's such a little prick, but he's really good at what he does. Dom then said Liv would accept Rhea's challenge, but she's banged up but she's still not afraid. She beat you before and she'll beat you again, Dom said. Dom started talking about winning the Intercontinental title, but Rhea cut him off, started speaking in Spanish, which got a pop from the Mayer household here. It also got a pop from the audience. Rhea then told Dom to let Liv know she will face her anytime, any place. Liv then hits the ring, tries to blindside Rhea, Rhea catches her with an elbow. Rhea goes after Dom, who fled the ring, held him by his hair. Morgan hits Ripley, whose leg ends up getting tied up in the ropes. Liv then starts taking shots at Ripley and went to ringside and kissed her forehead. That's a little bit of payback for Rhea in the finish to the match, licking Liv after pinning her in what she's now calling the pretzel pin, by the way, for those of you who paid attention to the post-show. The now famed Rhea Ripley stack pin. And so Damian Priest comes out for the save, and Dom and Liv flee. Rhea's selling a knee injury, and that's the segment. Some people were legitimately thinking that this was a botch. Listen, with what followed, did you really think that was fake? Y'all got worked. Y'all got worked. It was a really well executed spot because Rhea did a really good job of selling the injury throughout the night. But this was a good angle to get the heels, get some heat back. I've got some questions about this. Was a show long, sequence of things that happened. I've got some questions about where this is all going, because I get it that Rhea's the star of the show. You want to make her this uber babyface, but at some point, and it was nice to see the heels kind of get some heat back here, but I'll talk about it later in the show about how the night ended. I've got some concerns about where Judgment Day is going to lie and how this is all going to lay out and how much longer they can really, extend this thing out. So then Joe and Barrett are at ringside. They shift their focus to Uncle Howdy's win over Chad Gable last week. Up next is Gable leading out the Creeds and Ivy Nile, American Made, to take on his former team in Alpha Academy. And before this all came out, Gable slapped the shit out of Julius in the open. So we have the 6-man tag. This was fine. I honestly got to tell you that Maxime Dupree looked really good in this match. Six-person mixed tag. And Maxine got some good stuff in, but ultimately she gets distracted by Gable on the floor. And Niall gets a kick in, gets the Dragon Sleeper, and forces Dupree to tap out. This was about what I expected it to be. American Made needed to get a win back, obviously, with what's going on with the Wyatts. But Maxine continues to show improvement in small doses. I thought they were kind of exposing her a little bit too much, so kind of masking her in some of these six-person tags is a good way to go. There's still a decent amount of heat. I know a lot of people are mad that kind of Alpha Academy has kind of been brushed aside. Otis is still over. The hot tag that he was getting still really gets a lot of energy. Tozawa has been a breath of fresh air. They're letting him work. They're not making him be entirely a comedy character. But again, this was all about American Made getting a win back, because they've been having to take a lot of losses at the expense of the Wyatts. So yeah, this was a good opening match. Went a little bit over 10 minutes, got a break in there. After the match, Chad gets on the mic. He told the crowd to applaud the greatest fighting family in all of WWE. Interesting. He said they don't suck. The Wyatt Six sucks. Gable complained that his match with Uncle Howdy was supposed to be a singles match, but Howdy got his Freak Show family involved. Gable then challenged the Wyatt Six to an eight-person street fight next week. So Nikki Cross will be making her debut as Abby the Witch. So that'll be really interesting for this feud. Uncle Howdy comes out to respond. He said it's been 375 days since his sanity crumbled. That's obviously referencing Bray. He said his past is in the void now. He said the silence is deafening, but he could still hear it. Howdy then said his life is no longer his. Howdy said he and his crew will collect a debt. So Cross, Dexter Lumis, Eric Rowan, and Joe Gacy joined Howdy on stage, and that's the end of the segment. So we're getting this 8-person tag team match next week. It's a street fight. You know what? If I'm going to make an early prediction here, I don't think the Wyatt Six loses anything if they take a loss in a street fight. I actually think this is a smart play to, go the route here and maybe give American Made a win and have it as a result of a bunch of bullshit and a bunch of crazy weapon spots to put down the Wyatts. I don't think that's going to hurt them. And if you humanize the Wyatts, I actually think that's a smart play. Don't go over the top like you did with The Fiend, where it took Seth Rollins using a cartoonishly large mallet in Hell in a Cell to force a non-finish in a Hell in a Cell match, which we could talk about that another time on this channel. If you want to talk about some of the worst finishes in the history of professional wrestling, that's it. But I actually like that they did this. I think it's going to be a very compelling, very interesting match. This has been a really sneaky good mid-card thing, and they've done a really nice job in building the Wyatt Six and still making American Made credible despite, taking a bunch of losses in the midst of all this. They're facing this really, supernatural, hyped-up faction in the Wyatt Six. So we then hype up SmackDown's return to USA. It's going to be in Seattle, because this week is the last episode of SmackDown on Fox after 5 years. It's been a great run for them on Fox, but it'll be nice to see them get back on cable, because maybe we can stop with all the blurring out of the middle fingers and the blurring of profanity, because I think that's gotten a little bit excessive on the Fox side on network television. So next match is Shayna Baszler taking on Zelina Vega. This was there. Zelina had a really nice moment. Apparently a fan had a sign honoring her late father who died on 9/11. So that was really, really cool and a really neat moment. You could see Zelina was really emotional. I love Zelina Vega. She's been doing this for a long time. She's a great character. She's gotten a chance to show her ability in the ring. She didn't win here. It was a result of a lot of fuckery, a lot of distraction stuff involving Pure Fusion Collective. Sonya Deville and Zoe Stark were at ringside, and Shayna Baszler ultimately gets the win. After the match, Pure Fusion Collective gets some extra heat on Vega, but Lyra Valkyria shows up. She's back after selling a little bit of the attacks by this new group, but she gets taken out by the heels as well. Sonya Deville gets on the mic, tells the crowd to shut up and show her respect. Said that seeing Vega and Valkyria lying on the ground was a reminder of just how pathetic everyone is. They're playing into the heel thing. Said no man could take them home, and not a woman in the locker room could take them, period. And Deville said, if you want to step up, shoot your shot. And so, listen, I like what they're doing. I'd like to see, a little bit more meat on the bone than these 6-minute matches. But they're getting time, and I think that the heat behind this faction, it's clearly leading to something where they're trying to make more teams in this women's tag division, which has just been dormant on arrival since it started 5 years ago. So this was fine. Nothing inherently terrible about it. Like I said, it could have maybe gotten a couple extra minutes. I don't mind seeing extra Zelina Vega matches wrestling, and Shayna's really good, and I don't think she gets nearly enough opportunity to showcase her ability. So, yeah, but this was fun. And then we get backstage. Rhea's on a crutch. Damian Priest, and she basically says, yeah, it's a precaution. She'll be fine. After obviously being checked out by the trainers, she said Finn Balor would, and Priest said Finn Balor would only agree to a tag team match. And Priest said Ripley obviously couldn't be as a partner. He has no friends, so he can't have the match. And Rhea told him to accept the match because she had someone in mind. Hint, Yeet. We'll get there later on, but that's really cool. So then we go backstage. Zelina and Lyra are venting about Pure Fusion Collective, saying about trying to get the upper hand. Valkyria mentions, hey, I got an idea, and hey, it shows in Calgary next week, right? I think Natalia's coming back, people. She got featured in a video package hyping up Bash in Berlin. I think Natty's coming back next week, and to align herself with Zelina and Lyra. And that'll be a really good usage, I think, of Natalya in the mid-card in terms of women. And like I said, I know a lot of people are complaining about the usage of the women's roster on the women's roster on the main roster. Guys, they're getting time. They're getting time. And the number one feud, arguably, in this company involves two women. What's the complaint here? Like I said, I give or take a couple extra minutes on this, and I'd like to see at least a little bit more heat on Pure Fusion Collective if you're going to actually get us to take them seriously. So it was a good angle. And bringing in Natalya, assuming that's the way that they go, or a mystery partner, that'll be really cool. So then we get a CM Punk promo. This was the best thing on the show. By far. This was the best thing on the show. So Punk basically he does his usual shtick, playing up to the crowd, saying, "Yeah, is it great to be here on a Monday night in Denver, Colorado?" It's like his whole shtick like Cody does with the crowd, basically saying, "Yeah, so what do you want to talk about?" So he talks about getting his bracelet back, beating Drew McIntyre. He said that we got to get down to business. He recalled that he wasn't in WWE to make friends. He was there to make money. He also brought up Patrick Waugh in Colorado. If you're a hockey fan, Patrick Waugh won some Stanley Cups with the Colorado Avalanche, so that got a little bit of a pop. So Punk said there was another person who had a tough battle and came out on top at Bash in Berlin. And he calls out Gunther, mentions that Gunther beat Randy Orton, came out the other side. Punk said nothing could replace the chip on his shoulder other than that belt. He then boasted that he put Drew McIntyre to sleep and said it's time for CM Punk to wake up as champion. So Punk looked into the camera, congratulated Gunther, told him enjoy it before adding, "We're going to enjoy taking that off of you." He said the goal is gold and the target is Gunther. So Punk, it seems like this promo's over, and I was like, you know what? It was kind of lame for a CM Punk promo, and there felt like there was something missing here. So his music's playing, he goes to ringside, shakes Joe Tessitore's hand, gets on the table. There's a neat camera shot where you can't really see, and Drew McIntyre just sweeps his legs out, trips him on the table. McIntyre just starts working over CM Punk. Wade Barrett gets in, and this was the part, and I'll talk about this after I get through the whole thing. Wade Barrett gets in, tries to talk McIntyre down. McIntyre looks like he's about to listen, then he pushes Wade aside, drills Punk with a Claymore kick that literally knocked Punk off the table and out of his shoes. So that was crazy. McIntyre throws Punk back in the ring. McIntyre shrugs off Barrett again, drills Punk with another Claymore kick. Joe Tessitore screaming, "This is way too far. This is way too far." Wade puts on the headset, and then he tells him that there's nothing that anybody could do. Barrett said that something could go wrong in the mind of McIntyre, and he couldn't stop him, so something's clearly wrong with him. McIntyre barks at Punk, threw some more kicks at him. Bunch of producers show up. McIntyre then pulls the bracelet off the wrist of CM Punk, looks at it, and breaks it. And anybody who wants to dismiss, oh, they're fighting over a bracelet, they have put over the significance of that bracelet for close to 2 months now. So that was a powerful, powerful moment in this feud. McIntyre takes a handful of the beads from the bracelet and then shoves it in CM Punk's mouth. He then hits another Claymore. Adam Pearce and several referees get out there, pull McIntyre off of Punk. Barrett said he never seen McIntyre like this before. Pearce motioned for help to the back, and medical personnel bring out the stretcher. We get the stretcher job. So then we're backstage after a break, and McIntyre shows up, throws some more punches at Punk. who's now bleeding from the mouth. It may have been a blood pack. Either way, it looked effective. McIntyre then gouges the eyes of Punk until referees pulled him away. So then Joe gets off the show. He's in this somber mood, just selling how graphic that injury angle was. So first of all, this was easily the best thing on this show. Not to say that anything else on this show was inherently bad, but the heat behind this needed to happen to obviously advance this. We all knew, like, this was all a red herring. CM Punk was not done with Drew McIntyre. They were not going to end this at 1-1. So that's the first thing. That was a really great thing, and it spiced this thing up, because I felt like this was kind of limping along in terms of, you know, all of the personal barbs that have been thrown. There hasn't been a lot of physicality in this CM Punk Drew McIntyre feud up until the last couple of weeks building into the strap match. This was about as violent as they have gotten in this feud. Drew ripping apart the bracelet, hitting like several claymores, literally kicking CM Punk out of his shoes. The stretcher job, the blood. This was as effective as anything as they've done in this entire feud. And it's obviously going to lead to something at Bad Blood. I would imagine it's Hell in a Cell. That's the only thing, honest to God, that makes any sense whatsoever for this feud. It's the quintessential blow-off match. This is a blood feud. This has gotten so personal, and I'm glad they took it to this violent physical level, because it really advanced the story to a new level. Now, to the Joe Tessitore and Wade Barrett part of this whole thing. They were fucking outstanding. That's Joe Tessitore's first big angle as a Raw announcer. And to execute it like you knew what the hell you were doing, that was great. Wade Barrett's involvement on a personal level, trying to plead to Drew, that element in this feud has been great. They used that really effectively, getting him to try and stop and talk some sense into McIntyre, but McIntyre not listening to him. Joe saying, yeah, this is way too far. This is way too far. It was great. This was really well done. And like I said, that's the first real big angle that Joe gets to call on Raw, and he knocked it out of the park. And it's a huge angle in one of the biggest feuds in this company. So much great came out of that. That was awesome. Then we get our first Intercontinental Championship triple threat match. It's Ilya Dragunov versus Dragon Lee versus Dom Mysterio. So really, this match was good. A lot of good moves in it. But then it effectively became a one-on-one match when Carlito gets involved. He gets to ringside. And Damian Priest comes out, roughs up Carlito. Dom spots Priest. He hops the barricade. He says, fuck this. I don't care about the Intercontinental title. I don't want to get my ass kicked. So he's out of there. So it's down to Dragon Lee and Ilya Dragunov in the finish. So towards the end of this match, Ilya gets an inside cradle for a 2. And Ilya was taking some shit. And out of nowhere, he hits Torpedo Moscow for the win. Joe didn't know what the move was. It's okay. I mean, Ilya Dragunov's only been on the main roster for a handful of weeks and months. He hasn't really done the move that much, and it kind of came out of nowhere. So like I said, I'm willing to give it a pass. This was a fun little sprint. I like how they got Dom out of this match, because there was no way that Dom was winning. So you get him out of there, get him out of the building, make him look like a coward like he is. And again, fun finish. Ilya and Dragon Lee had a fun little brief little one-on-one match near the tail end of that thing. Ilya hits so freaking hard. It's great. And I love that he's getting an opportunity to potentially go after Braun Breaker. Then we look back at Bronson Reed versus Braun Strowman last week. And that crazy thing. Bronson Reed was supposed to be in the second triple threat match for the Intercontinental title tournament, but he got COVID. Unfortunately, he's out. I didn't think Bronson Reed needed to be in that match, so I thought this was a blessing in disguise. And I thought, hey, there's a mystery to this whole thing. There's a guy in Denver, Colorado, that if you say his name, he'll appear. But apparently they go back to Adam Pearce. He's getting interviewed by Kathy Kelly and gets asked about who the replacement will be. And this is the moment in the show where everybody watching it who thought, including myself, that Joe Hendry might have a chance of being on the show. There's no way, because the whole gimmick is say his name and he'll appear. Like, if you go backstage and talk to Adam Pearce about this, it wasn't happening. So Braun Strowman walks in, shows his taped up ribs, said medical told him he's good to go. And so Pierce, after saying he had, done a whole week of, had done a whole day's worth of trying to figure out who the third challenger was going to be in this match, he just goes with Braun Strowman. I mean, who's going to say no to a 385 pound one big son of a bitch, as Pat McAfee would say. So, so Braun Strowman fills in for Bronson Reed. I would imagine this would play into their feud, and maybe this was the plan all along in reverse, that if Bronson Reed would have been in this match, Braun Strowman probably would have, interfered and maybe benefited from something else. So, then we get women's tag team title #1 contenders match. Io Sky and Kairi Sane, the Sky Pirates from Damage Control, taking on the unholy union of Alba Fire and Isla Dawn. Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill at ringside, the new champions. So they're about to find out who their new challengers are. This was a short match. Near the end is where it really got interesting and kind of a little bit convoluted, to be honest with you. Kairi Sane's going for a dive to the floor on Isla Dawn, and Isla Dawn just pulls Bianca Belair in front of her, and Kairi just wiped Bianca out and kind of hit the table, which looked nasty. So back in the ring, Fire and Dawn hit the gory special on Kairi, and Dawn gets the pin. So Alba Fire and Isla Dawn get the win. There's a lot of heat after the match because Sky and Io and Kairi are yelling at Bianca and Jade. There's clearly some heat there. It's a little weird that they just go back to Alba Fire and Isla Dawn, but hey, it's kind of the neat way of just saying, hey, this is the rematch. This is how we're going to do this. So it was a little weird, but hey, baby steps in building to that inevitable Io and Kairi match against Jade and Bianca. So then we get Kofi Kingston backstage. He's complaining to Adam Pearce, rightfully so, that Finn and JD have not defended the tag team titles, and I'll talk about that in a second. The tag team division in WWE is a fucking disaster. I mean, in general, tag team wrestling is just not good. It's not good in AEW either. Like, it's a problem in professional wrestling in North America. Tag team wrestling is really significantly down. Maybe NXT is okay. So Pierce said he's trying to get Judgment Day on the phone, and it's been crazy. Kingston said he had a proposition for himself and Xavier Woods, but Gunther walks in the picture. He just looks at Kingston, smirks, and walks away. Interesting point here that I need to address. Odyssey Jones was randomly removed from the WWE roster page, which got a lot of attention on the internet. Xavier Woods even acknowledged it, so I don't know what the hell that means. Maybe they're reworking something, but so this was a neat little tie-in and sort of explaining, hey, what the hell's going on with the tag team? And it was kind of the way to get that New Day angle, even though it's kind of clearly in limbo right now. So then we get Gunther for a promo. Before we get there, Damian Priest asked Rhea Ripley if the mystery person that she was trying to get involved in the tag team main event said yes. Rhea said, oh, he said no. And then Priest asked what'd he say? And she goes, yeet, with a smile. And Priest said, cool, he's going to have to go talk to Jey. And we obviously knew who it was at that point. So Gunther has a promo. He puts over Randy Orton. And that all he was really trying to do in the build to that Bash in Berlin match was bring out the best Randy Orton. And now he can say that he beat the best version of Randy Orton. And Tessitore... so we're getting on commentary. And so we're building to this whole thing. And Sami Zayn's music hits. And out he comes, and Joe Tessitore reminds everybody Sami Zayn was the last person to beat Gunther. And this was thrown around on the internet as a possibility for Gunther's next challenger. My problem in initially thinking about it was like, wait, so you're going to really have Sami Zayn take back-to-back losses or actually 3 straight losses, because he basically will have lost 2 separate matches, like a 2 out of 3. He's actually lost 3 times in like the last month or something like that. And wasn't he supposed to be tagging with Jey Uso and going after the tag team titles? Again, I will address that a little bit later on. But getting past all of that, Sami makes a ton of sense in this regard. And he put over the fact that, hey, a lot of the greats who have won the Intercontinental title as the Workhorse title have moved up as a stepping stone to being the World Heavyweight title. He says he's the next one there. Gunther said Zayn was right about him and others using the Intercontinental title as a stepping stone. But Gunther said when Sami had the title, he stepped down. Fans are going, what at Gunther? Guys, you got to give the champion some respect. Like, I know Gunther's not the greatest at promos, but he's still good. The what needs to get the hell out of wrestling. Just get it out of there. Stone Cold Steve Austin, like, I love him, but that was one of the worst things that he ever did in the business. God bless him. Gunther praises Zayn, teased him, giving him a shot before saying, yeah, my answer's no. So he drops the mic, walks out of the ring. Sami Zayn yells at him to stop. He said, yeah, I've watched your entire career and you've never backed down from a fight. He says, yeah, I think I know why you're backing down now. Because since you've been on the main roster, I'm the only person to beat you. Great point. Gunther, who had his back to Zayn, turned around, faced him on stage, and Zayn asked if he had Gunther's attention now. And so Zayn said, yeah, I'm coming for you, and I will become the World Heavyweight Champion. Simple, effective storytelling. I do think it's a little weird that Sami, took 2 weeks off. Jey's now in the Intercontinental title championship feud. He teamed with Damian Priest tonight. These guys beat the tag team champions like a few weeks ago, and we're just forgetting about it. So it's a little bit convoluted in the way that things are going here. But I understand it's simple, effective storytelling. You need Gunther to beat another guy. He can avenge his loss here. I think Sami then from there can potentially just him and Jey could get back together, and Roman can plead with them, hey, I need you guys to take down this new version of the Bloodline. So baby steps to get to where they want to get to with rebuilding the bloodline. So then basically the match is confirmed for later in the evening. As I said, Damian Priest and Jey Uso taking on Finn and JD, non-title match. Jackie Redmond backstage interviewing Jey Uso. And asked if Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley gave him any advice for beating Braun Breaker. Jey said no, and then he did his whole yeet shtick. Braun Breaker walks in. Jackie gets out of there. Braun said no member of Jey's family has beaten up a member of his own family. That's a line that he said last week. It's a good line. Braun then said he was giving Jey one chance to walk away and said he would lose if he came after him. Jey said, thanks for the advice, rookie. Jey said he'd win the tournament, the Intercontinental title, and he would beat Braun's ass while doing it. Also, Braun was saying, yeah, go back to Rhea, or go back to this. I think it was something about Rhea sloppy seconds or something like that. It was a good line mixed in there. That I forgot what the exact line was, but that was a really good line. It's very clear that Jey Uso is going to win this tournament because the most heat that Braun and the most that he has said about any one of the challengers or potential challengers that he had was specifically related to Jey Uso. Not to disrespect the other three guys that are going to be in this number one contender match. It's very clear that Jey Uso is going to be the guy who wins this match next week. So then we get the second Intercontinental title. I'll call it Eliminator, I guess, but it's a tournament match. It's Sheamus, Ludwig Kaiser, and Braun Strowman. So early on in this match, Braun Strowman goes to run around the ring and tries to bury Ludwig Kaiser through the barricade, but Kaiser sidesteps it, and Braun goes through the timekeeper's area. We get a cool thing. They showed all the broadcast team members at the bottom of the screen. A nice little bit of sports presentation that they're doing with this show. So then Kaiser then gets his running start to go out of the ring to boot Braun Strowman at ringside. But Braun, call back to his old days of the I'm not finished with you, monster among men, tosses the office chair at Ludwig Kaiser's head. Fans are going, holy shit. Good to see old school Braun back in the fold. So then back in the ring, Strowman chokeslams Sheamus, gets a 2. Strowman charged Sheamus, who moved, leading to Strowman crashing into the corner. Sheamus gets the 10 beats of the Bowderin. And then knocked Braun off the apron with a knee strike. Kaiser hits Sheamus with what's now known as the Kaiser roll, a rolling Death Valley driver. Neat little name of that move. Sheamus then hit Kaiser with the bro kick, had him beat, but Pete Dunne shows up, pulls him out of the ring, hits him with the shillelagh, and Braun Strowman ends up getting a running power slam on Kaiser to win the match. This was relatively short, so it's set. It's Jey Uso, Pete Dunne, Ilya Dragunov, and Braun Strowman in the Fatal 4-Way. Winner will get Braun Breaker for the Intercontinental title. Two things. I think Braun Strowman, he won't win it here. Maybe Bronson Reed's back after recovering from COVID, and they continue their feud, and maybe that's why. I think that's what was really going to happen here. I love what they're doing with Pete Dunne. It's really hard to have one very heat-filled mid-card feud in WWE. Pete Dunne has two of them. He's got two of them. He's feuding with two different people. He's feuding with Sheamus on the main roster, and he's feuding with Trick Williams. It's unbelievable what they've been able to do with Pete Dunne since Tyler Bate got hurt. It was the biggest blessing in disguise for a guy who I think is so unbelievably talented, but has been criminally underutilized and has been trying to get away from that nickname, and they've used it in storyline. It's amazing what they've done with Pete Dunne in the last, 4, 5, 6 weeks. And he has a chance to, potentially challenge for the Intercontinental title. He's the only heel in this match. Again, it's very clear to me. There's really two options in this match, but it's very clear that Jey Uso should win this match. I'd love to see Dragunov, considering he's got history with Braun, but they've planted so many seeds and made it pretty obvious that it's going to be Braun Breaker versus Jey Uso for the Intercontinental title. And Jey Uso will win this match next week on the season premiere of Raw. So I was a little bit surprised to see Braun Strowman win the match, especially considering it was just a fill-in spot. I thought Sheamus made a lot of sense here. But obviously you had to build to the heat of, the heat to, him and Pete Dunne and what's going on with them. And it would have been nice to see Kaiser maybe get the win, but I kind of get it. He's kind of just been taking a lot of pins lately. So then we go backstage. Damian Priest has his chat with Jey Uso. Said he appreciated him agreeing to be his partner, but they had a past that could not be ignored. Jey said he used to be in Priest's position with no friends or family. Jey said he respects Priest and he wasn't going to say no to Ripley, which was like a nice little weave between serious and, unserious Jey Uso. Priest said the beating they give the lame-ass Judgment Day would be for Rhea. So, then we go backstage. Jackie Redmond asked Pete Dunne if he had anything to say about what he did to Sheamus. Pete then said she could tell Sheamus that it was a message from an old friend. And Dunne said he was off to NXT to face Trick Williams tomorrow night. And Jackie asked if she could tell Sheamus that the message came from Butch, which Pete Dunne stopped, turned around. Dunne told Jackie not to call him Butch. Jackie looks scared to death. I got to say this because I spent a lot of time early on in the show talking about how much of a great hire Joe Tessitore is and will be. Jackie Redmond, I don't think people talk about how really good she has been. She's got broadcasting experience, obviously, on the NHL side. She has come in and taken this job and run with it. And she may not be as big of a wrestling fan as, or as Joe Tessitore. She's really done a good job with a lot of the way she interacts with these people on kickoff shows and doing backstage interviews. She's really a natural, and I think it's really sneakily one of the better hires that WWE has made in recent memory, because they've always hired really good backstage interviewers, but Jackie, I think, has really done a decent job, and this segment really stuck out to me in terms of, just saying Butch and then looking really freaked out. Oh, man, what did I do wrong? So then Joe and Wade run down the season premiere in Calgary next week. As I said, the Intercontinental title Fatal 4-Way, I would expect Jey Uso to win that. Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill defending against Alba Fire and Isla Dawn. I would expect the champs to retain there. And then you've obviously got the 8-person mixed tag street fight between the Wyatt Six and American Made. I'm going to go with the upset there. I'm going to say American Made gets a win here by some sort of crazy nefarious means, and you don't have to have Uncle Howdy take the pin. You could have somebody like Gacy or Loomis take the pin, and I don't think the Wyatts will look any bit weaker in the ring if they take a loss here. But in the way this story has been built, American Made has got to win at some point for this to make, for anybody to really take them seriously. So then we get the main event. It's a non-title match. Finn Balor and JD McDonough against Damian Priest and Jey Uso. So, listen, this was a fun match. Really what came down to the end, Jey Uso is going for the Uso splash. Liv Morgan comes over and knocks him off the rope while Balor distracted the referee. Balor tags in, hits Jey with the sling blade, gets a drop kick. Balor tags in, hits a coup de grace. JD follows up with a moonsault. But Priest breaks up the pin at the last second. Rhea's music hits. Morgan's kind of mocking her limping. Rhea's coming out with a crutch. Morgan mocks the limp. And hopped down and jawed in her face. Rhea then uses the crutch as a weapon. She hops around on one leg, still trying to sell it as best as she could. Liv hops over the barricade in the ring. Priest tags in. Jey spears Balor. McDonough gets hit with the Razor's Edge. Jey then called for a tag, gets it. Jey hits McDonough with the Uso splash. And Jey Uso and Damian Priest, who earlier in the year were facing off for the world title, beat the tag team champions in a listen, okay, let's just get this out of the way. I don't know what the fuck they're doing with the tag team division in WWE. Listen, some people will criticize me for being overly positive to WWE. This is one thing that I need to get off my chest that really bothered me. Well, two things, actually. Number one, the new Judgment Day, since SummerSlam, since everything was effectively, blown off and they splintered this off into the Civil War, the Terror Twins have owned this feud. And there is no reason to take this new Judgment Day seriously whatsoever. They're a bunch of cowards. And I was willing to bypass and say, okay, Liv and Dom not winning at Bash in Berlin, Rhea getting the win. She now has justification for getting another women's championship match against Liv Morgan. But now this happening on this show, think about this for a second. Jey Uso has beaten the tag team champions twice with two different partners. And Finn and JD have not defended the titles. You heard it with Kofi Kingston earlier in the night. They haven't defended the titles in 2 months. This is some Young Bucks shit. I'm a little bit pissed off about this. The tag team division, ever since splitting up those titles at WrestleMania, has been an unmitigated disaster. All due respect to Truth and Miz, that was a nice moment. They did nothing with the championships. And then Finn and JD win them, and they've done nothing with them. And then on SmackDown, you look at where that tag team division is. Theory and Waller are about to break up. They had a nothing title reign. They lose it to DIY. And DIY holds it for 3-4 weeks and drops it to the Bloodline, who changed partners a week later. The tag team division in WWE, if there's one really glaring weakness, the tag team division in WWE is a disaster. This is a mess, because how am I supposed to take your tag team division seriously if your tag team champions aren't defending the titles, and then one guy using two different partners has beaten you twice, and he still doesn't have a tag team title because he's going to face off for the Intercontinental title? Again, I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. Triple H has done a lot of good, but when you do so much good, some of the bad gets masked up. And I've been holding this in for a while, willing to give the benefit of the doubt. But Judgment Day has taken so many pins and so much shit and taken so much heat, and there's no reason to believe in them. So I get it. Rhea is, the star of the show, as I've said. And Damian Priest is really over with the crowd. But at a certain point, you have got to give them some adversity. And you have got to make your tag team champions look some degree strong. And this is just a mess. And if you want to extend it to SmackDown, I thought splitting up the tag team belts was going to do some good for this division, and it is clearly not done that, because both of these divisions are a disaster right now. They are a mess, and they've got to fix it. And again, this is not just exclusive to AEW. I've been critical of their tag team division too. This has been a huge problem in AEW and WWE. NXT has actually done a decent job with their tag division in putting together some makeshift teams to, compete. But Gallows and Anderson are down in NXT. Why not bring them up? They could be a valuable hand. There's some good teams down in NXT that are challenging potentially to go after Axiom and Fraser. Bring Axiom and Fraser up. Beef up your division, because this is getting a little bit ridiculous and a little bit borderline insulting. But overall, even though that finish pissed me off, it was a fun match. And the baby faces go over. You get the Yeets, and Damian Priest gets a nice win. Rhea Ripley looks courageous. Joe Tessitore puts over how courageous she was after earlier in the night, and you should. I like that element of making Rhea look like this badass, but at the same time, it's like you've got to make the Judgment Day look a lot stronger than this. It's really gotten to the point where I was willing to look past it, but then after what happened at Bash in Berlin and what happened tonight, it was really eye-opening to me. So that was a big miss. Like I said, really solid show, questionable in spots, and like I said, really just an odd ending. I get why the faces had to go over there, but still, like you got to find better ways to not have to beat your tag team champions. Finn didn't take the pin, which I guess is a plus. JD's like the designated, Heat guy, the designated guy who takes the pins. We call him the human Funko Pop here in the Mayer household. So, but yeah, Raw's been pretty good. Again, there were some glaring things that bothered me a little bit. Like I said, I went off there at the end, but the show's still hitting on all cylinders. It's still I think the best show from top to bottom in all of professional wrestling. But when you have 3 hours of stuff, you're going to have some misses. And now some glaring misses are starting to show up. And we'll see how this starts to progress in the next couple of weeks as we go towards Bad Blood. That should be very exciting. We'll have some more content on here throughout the week. Obviously, leading into Bad Blood in the next couple of weeks. You obviously have the last SmackDown on Fox. On Friday, you'll have AEW Dynamite later in the week. So it's a big week for wrestling, as always. And thanks for the love and support here on the channel. Also, All Outs this weekend. Okay. Maybe have a little bit of reaction to that. I'm not too like jazzed up about that. It's good matches, but it's like there's no reason to care. So, but yeah, thanks for the love and support. Talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.